Guys, something very exciting is happening to Bitcoin's chart as we're testing this major resistance level we've been waiting to test, and this could potentially invalidate this major head and shoulder pattern that we're seeing on the daily chart. If this happens, we could potentially see brand new all-time highs for Bitcoin. I want to talk about what Bitcoin is going to do as today traditional markets open, and we can look at traditional markets along with the DXY, and I've also got some new levels drawn out for Bitcoin, including the weekly, the monthly open from the previous week, and then we're going to talk about Ethereum because just as we predicted yesterday, Ethereum dominance is coming down. We're seeing massive sell pressure. I want to talk about if Ethereum's rally is going to continue, but you can see Bitcoin dominance is coming back and avenging itself, seeing a massive spike to the upside after this major drop from this descending triangle that broke down last week. We have a lot to talk about today. You guys are watching the Snipers channel. My name is Naeem Al-Obeidi. If you appreciate this content, remember to like this video. Let's first dive into this macro analysis for Bitcoin and look at the daily chart, because understand that if we pull up the three simple moving averages, something very interesting is happening with the 50-day moving average now sitting at this monthly open. And this is one of the first times during this bull rally that this 50-day moving average has been able to come up and come near the price action from recent days. You can see from this previous dip that we saw down to 30,000, we are now close to that level, actually ascending above that. And that to me is very positive for Bitcoin to be able to sustain these higher price levels as we progress into this new year. And so this is a major development on the macro chart. But we have a lot to look at today because we're going to look at traditional markets, being that it's Monday, one of my favorite days because markets have opened. But first, let's look at the micro for Bitcoin because so much has changed in the last 24 hours. First and foremost, we have this previous weekly open now sitting at 35,852. You can see the new weekly open is down here at 32,272. This just reset today. And so at this point, this is going to be a very easy determination on whether or not Bitcoin is going to continue to the upside or downside. I'm going to teach you guys a lesson today. The path of least resistance when it comes to these charts, when there's little volume as there is right now, is either going to be sideways or a little bit higher. That's always the path of least resistance. And so when we're going to look at some trades that we took in our Discord, we're going to talk about how this principle applies to trades as well. But realize that at this point, this is going to be a very simple determination on whether or not Bitcoin is going to break out to new highs like Ethereum did yesterday, or if we're going to see this head and shoulder pattern play out. Now, so far, you can see the top of the left shoulder is at 34,788 US dollars. We also found resistance, coincidentally enough, in the last few hours at $34,788. Why is this important? Well, realize at this point, not only is this left shoulder top here acting as resistance, but we also have this major resistance level coming back into the equation. As you can see, we've already tested it once, and at this point, if Bitcoin is able to close hourly candles above 34,788, I believe that this head and shoulder pattern can be invalidated, and we can even potentially take a long position if we reclaim this major support level. And at that point, we could potentially see brand new all-time highs for Bitcoin, because I'm going to talk about what's happening to the dollar value and traditional markets that coincides with Bitcoin potentially seeing a continuation to the upside despite all of the bears, despite the lack of volume. Remember, the path of least resistance is always going to be sideways to a little bit higher. And so here's my long position. If Bitcoin breaks 34,788 and starts closing hourly candles above, invalidating this head and shoulder pattern, guess what? If we're able to reclaim this major support level, then I'm going to be watching the previous weekly open. That's why it's so important to keep that weekly open on the chart, and that's currently sitting at 35,825. If I see one hourly candle close above that, I will go ahead and take a long position and join the party early with a stop loss right down to that $34,788 level. That's right about a 3% stop loss. It's actually a little bit less than 3%, with a massive upside potential if we were to just keep it conservative towards the previous all-time high. We're talking a 17% long trade here, and I don't mind joining the party early if we start closing above the previous weekly open, because understand that most traders are not looking at that. Only the experts and the algorithms are looking at that level. And so that's a very key level in my opinion, and so that would be my long trade. I'm not going to go into much of the short trades at this point because if we start to see weakness, I will address that in another video. Remember to subscribe to the channel, but most importantly, turn on those post notifications. Click that little bell so you get the updates first and that you're not left behind. But if we start to see a weak Bitcoin price, then I will update you guys with potential downside targets. Of course, the first one is going to be the monthly open at 29,000 again, because we already came down to test that once. If we come down to test that a second time, any support level that gets tested twice becomes a lot weaker, and that will most likely break down to the CME gap left down below here at 23,795. I actually need to switch this. I think this level changed yesterday, so this CME gap is at 23,795. But nonetheless, let's pull up an Ethereum chart and talk about what's happening to Ethereum now that we've looked at the potential long opportunity for Bitcoin. Realize that Ethereum is seeing some weakness in the Bitcoin chart, and the reason for that is we saw Bitcoin dominance take a massive plunge after it broke down from this descending triangle here, and you can see now we're starting to see Bitcoin dominance avenge itself, just as we predicted in our video yesterday. We knew that the weekly candle was going to close and that we were much and below these major support levels. When you see the 50 and 100 period moving average get sliced like that, you can certainly expect us to see some sort of a relief rally, and that's exactly what we're getting with Bitcoin dominance right now. That's causing Ethereum dominance to come down a little bit, but nonetheless, it is one of the most bullish breakouts I've ever seen in the history of cryptocurrencies right now, and so I expect Ethereum to continue to the upside in the macro, but in the short term, we will be watching to see what happens to the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart. Realize that when we pull up Ethereum to US dollar, we have this bearish flag forming here, and realize that at this point we've got a new weekly open sitting here at just around 1390, and at this point we've found major support here. We have great volume, not too much sellers, and remember the path to least resistance is always going to be a little bit to the side but mostly higher, and so the previous all-time high at 1440 got smashed right through. If this does what Bitcoin did when it smashed its previous all-time high, it's going to continue to the upside. And then we have this major resistance sitting right around 1500. If this breaks, that would be my long trade for Ethereum, because that could take us to new all-time highs that we've never seen before. And if that breaks, which it's already broke the previous all-time high, but if this breaks, then Ethereum goes into price discovery, which is what Bitcoin did when it broke 20,000, and at that point Ethereum can go to 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. If we actually do the calculations, we did this on our Discord. Shout out to Adonis for doing this in the crypto chat yesterday or a couple days ago, but at the peak of Ethereum's dominance against Bitcoin in 2017, I believe it was at 16% dominance. Right now we're sitting at around 3% of Bitcoin, and at that peak price, if we factored in the price of Ethereum, we are talking about around a $6,000 Ethereum price per Ethereum. And so that would be exciting for us to see 6,000, but that's all going to be determined on whether or not we start to break this resistance and close hourly candles above this. For now, we've got this weekly open acting as a major support. If this breaks and we start to close hourly candles below, this is all going to be determined on what happens to Bitcoin, because remember, Ethereum and all other coins, they like to mimic Bitcoin's major moves. And so when Bitcoin is consolidating, things are fine, but when Bitcoin makes a major move, they will mimic that. And so if we start to see Bitcoin come down and we drop below the weekly open for Ethereum to US dollar, the next support is the previous weekly open at 1234, 1234. Very nice number. And then from there, we have the support level here from this flag. I'm not expecting downside targets just yet. Until we start to see weakness is when we will address those downside targets, but just keep those in mind and realize that the path to least resistance, repeat after me, the path to least resistance is sideways to a little bit higher. And so we can expect that for price action. And so now that we've covered Bitcoin dominance and others dominance, realize that I expect Bitcoin dominance to continue to see a little bit of a relief right now. So we might see a slowdown in altcoins. But nonetheless, if we pull up total cryptocurrency market cap, this is super exciting. Look at this. We're inside of this beautiful symmetrical triangle again, and we even have this bigger symmetrical triangle forming when it comes to the total cryptocurrency market cap. And this is going to affect all coins, not just Bitcoin. And so realize that when we pull this chart up, we actually have a little bit of room to go to the upside to test this resistance. If the symmetrical triangle breaks out, then we could see a massive pump in the cryptocurrency market, not just for Bitcoin and Ethereum, but that's all going to be determined on whether or not Bitcoin is once again going to be able to close hourly candles above 34,788, and then from there, we really want to just reclaim this previous weekly open, and above that, then the sky's the limit, in my opinion, for Ethereum and for Bitcoin and for the total cryptocurrency market cap. But so far, things are looking good when it comes to the total cryptocurrency market cap, the Ethereum to US dollar chart that just broke an all-time high yesterday. And I want to address why I believe that we could continue to the upside when it comes to these markets. Look at the NASDAQ. We just formed a new all-time high today in the traditional markets, specifically the tech sector. That is very bullish in my opinion, not just for Bitcoin, but in all markets. And then we pull up Japanese traditional markets. Look at that, coming up, looking like it wants to break out to new all-time highs. China already breaking new all-time highs today at market open. And then we even pull up, I'm sorry, that was Hong Kong. China here also breaking new all-time highs today. And so traditional markets are looking really good. When traditional markets are doing good, we know Bitcoin does well, and so that is important to keep in mind. I do want to talk about the principle of volume. When there's little volume, the path to least resistance is sideways to a little bit higher. I want to address this Bitcoin trade that we took yesterday, and it was a long at 31,800. We took it at 8 a.m. yesterday right here, and we actually got lower entries before we saw a massive run up that already resulted in just a spot price of over 10% profits in less than a day. This was our Bitcoin trade. For those in our Discord, the link is in the description below for those that aren't in our Discord, but congratulations to those that took this trade. 31,800. We already hit all targets. The reason we took this trade was, once again, the path to least resistance is sideways to a little bit higher. And I noticed yesterday, coming into Sunday, futures markets were closed, traditional markets were closed. There wasn't much volume, right? And so I knew that as we started to see all these hourly candles close red, at some point we were going to see a push to the upside, because the path to least resistance is not down. It's sideways to a little bit higher, right? And so we took the long trade right here. Maybe it wasn't the best entry because it did come down less than 1%, but that I liked in my opinion, because usually I'll be able to dollar cost average better entries. And then you can see that immediately started to rally. When we started to see higher volume confirmations, I knew this was a no-brainer, and that trade already resulted in 10% on spot. That's over 100% if you did 10x leverage. And then I want to talk about some of these altcoins. We took a trade for STPT on the 23rd, and this already resulted in over 27% profits. You can see for this trade specifically, we entered here at 60, and this specifically was done because of the same principle that we took that Bitcoin trade. The path to least resistance is higher and to the side. And realize with this, there was also a major bullish divergence. I like to use indicators as confirmations. You can see we formed a higher low here on the RSI and a lower low in price action on the daily, and this occurred on the 9th of January. We actually took this entry right on the 23rd of January, and so we entered at 60 right here before the breakout. And I knew that as we started to see volume come here, the path to least resistance is sideways to a little bit higher. Altcoin dominance was doing well at this time. We took this trade, already resulted in over 30% profits, because once again, these altcoins with low market caps have a higher and better potential to see upside, and it's easier with less liquidity for these coins to pop. And so there's a lot of profits to be made in these altcoins. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm going to wrap it up, but I'm super excited to see Bitcoin test this resistance level and see some strength. Even on the 4-hour chart, you can see we have some good volume here to start this rally up. We caught that monthly open. We caught along here for those in our Discord as well, and that resulted in a lot of volume, which is good for a reversal. And we always want to test previous monthly opens, previous breakout levels, and so this was a very healthy test. And so this long scenario can very much come into the equation, and I'd be very excited to see this long position come into fruition for some of you guys watching this video, so you guys can go ahead and take part in some of these profits. And I'll see all of you guys in the Discord, and I'll see you guys with our video tomorrow. And with that being said, that's it for today. Snipers out.